Hey guys, David here, and this is the first look at the brand new NS Bikes Synonym behind me. So the Polish company isn't that synonymous with XE trail bikes, but this is a fascinating new bike from the company. You've got a carbon frame with 29-inch wheels, 120mm travel front and rear on this bike, but, big but, you get the geometry from a longer travel enduro bike, which makes it stand out and is a real sign of where shorter travel bikes are going in 2019-2020. Let me run you through some of the key details on the bike before I go for a quick ride and see how it performs. So as you can see, it's a full carbon frame and rear triangle. There's actually two versions. There's one with 100mm travel front and rear for XE racers, and this is a trail version with 120mm front and rear with a Fox 34 step cast fork in the front. And you see why it gets the step cast name, because they've just taken that bit of material there away from the fork. So 120mm travel front and rear. You get a dropper post on this bike, you get a short stem and wide handlebars. It's a very nicely put together carbon frame with full internal cable routing going into the head tube and popping out down at the bottom of the down tube, and routing around the shock and into the chainstays again, and going out to the rear mech and the disc brake on the back there. So an interesting detail on the bike is that the suspension layout, you've got a main pivot just above the bottom bracket there, got a small rocker linkage there to activate the Fox shock, but at the back, instead of using a pivot on the chainstay to make it a horse link, or on the seat stay to make it basically a single pivot rocker linkage setup, they use flex in the carbon stays to save the weight from a pivot from the hardware and to get enough flex to create the suspension performance they want. So something we've seen in the past. Candale used to do it on their Scalpel. So that's an interesting detail. Really nicely put together frame, and of course you've got space for a bottle cage, a requirement these days with two mounts, so you have it lower like it is here or higher up depending on what you need. Now the big news on this bike is the fact that the geometry really marks it out from other XE trail bikes. This is size large, and the reach is a whopping 490mm. I mean, that's longer than many trail bikes and enduro bikes, and it's longer than most other XE race bikes. It does point to where XE trail bikes are going though. The Intense Sniper I tested was very long and slack, and the BMC 4-stroke was pretty long as well, but it's definitely the longest I've seen so far. Head angle is 67, which is pretty slack for a XE bike. They're normally at 68, 69, so that's pretty slack. Then you've got a 77-degree seat angle, so nice and steep for climbing efficiency. The wheelbase is just over 1200, 1230 I think off the top of my head. Chainstays are 438. So progressive is the key word here, the overused word and the mountain bike word at the moment. So yeah, interesting combination of trail enduro bike geometry, but with the low weight and the pedaling efficiency you want from an XE lightweight trail bike. What's it like to ride then? Well, it's just a really quick bike everywhere, up, down and across. This bike is extremely rapid. The low weight, the stiff carbon frame and a firm and efficient suspension all help it to feel like a laser guided missile on the trails. The geometry, particularly the length and the slack head angle, gives you great confidence and capability when you're going down. It's like a mini trail enduro bike in a way. It just gives you loads of confidence to get through corners and over rocky terrain with great speed. And going up, it has the agility and the acceleration and the speed you want from a lightweight XE race bike. There were a couple of hairpin turns on a climb that I struggled with due to the length of the bike. I failed on the first two, managed to clear the second two, so 50% success rate. But generally, first impressions are that it's a very fast bike with great capability from the long, slack geometry, which you've not seen to this extent on the XE trail bike. Further testing will resume, and I might have to change the tyres for something a little bit grippier for my local trails, which are pretty slippery and covered in wet leaves, as you can see. Oh man, it's muddy. The only downside to riding this time of year is just absolutely caked in mud. Look at the state of me. Absolutely filthy. And look at the bike as well. A good test of mud clearance, which is an essential aspect of an XC race bike as well, or a lightweight trail bike, as this one is. First things first, down there. Yeah, it's doing pretty well actually. I mean, there's plenty of filth on there, but it's not clogging it. The shock is fairly well protected by the seat tube, whilst that's staying pretty clean. Pretty filthy. I could probably do a slightly chunkier tyre on the back and definitely on the front. The Recon's a good tyre. It's doing pretty well actually, but I've had a few sketchy moments, a few tank slappers. Funny enough, the cleanest part of the bike, apart from the stanchions, are the hubs. So a benefit of having a rubber debris on your hub. If you want nice clean hubs, set a rubber band. So, well, first impressions. Well, it's not an in-depth review. I'll do that in a couple of weeks' time once I've really got under the skin of the bike. But first impressions are, it's super quick, as you'd imagine from a bike weighing just 26 pounds. And it's got a really stiff carbon framing. You really feel that when you're putting power down on climbs. The geometry, I need to spend more time on it, but it works. So there's a big question around whether it's too long, or whether trail bike, enduro bike geometry is suitable on a lightweight trail XC bike. But I think it does work. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Got any questions about the bike? Do put them in the comment section down below and hit that subscription button if you haven't already. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again next time. Ride safe.